our panel discussion, will real-time booking ever be available in corporate accommodation, is next with Jess Dunderdale and our speaker, Jose Nunez.
Everyone, this is crazy. I don't know, can you see us in front of this huge screen? Isn't this absolutely nuts?
I look good.
Yeah, well, you wait. Wow, welcome to the first session of the day. For those of you who I haven't had the pleasure of meeting, I am Jess Dunderdale. I am the Senior Director of Client Partnerships at AltoVita. And something you may not know about me is that over the space of about 12 years, I lived in over a dozen locations in 5 European countries, which has then given me a very personal connection and understanding of what matters in the accommodation and mobility space. And joining me today is the wonderful Jose, who is the Corporate Travel Manager at AMC Networks International, and genuinely is a true champion for innovation in the travel space, and someone who's really not afraid to challenge the status quo. I had to get in on close on that one.
And I guess that AltoVita knows that, because the amount of times I've challenged them over the last 2 years in my previous life before AMC International, believe me, it was good. I've been in the travel industry for the last 25 years, just a little bit of that. My experience runs from airline to GDSs to leisure to corporate travel. In the last 5 years, 5 to 6 years, I was an outsourced travel manager for Fidelity International, and we helped implement AltoVita, and it was an amazing experience. The learning out of it was incredible, and technology is at the very forefront of everything that we've fought to bring to all the travelers. Is that going to happen to AMC? Potentially. Something that you might not know about me is that I'm Brazilian, but I think quite a few know. And if you're wondering whether it is Jose or Jose, it's entirely up to you.
or something else, in fact.
Yeah, let's not go there.
So now this is not your typical panel. This is our unpanel. So we're going to be keeping it interactive. Think of it much less as a TED Talk session and more of a as a group therapy for business travel and global mobility professionals.
Avoid tears.
Yes. Yeah. Well, you aim at somebody may have tears.
Yeah, perhaps.
So what we will do is Jose and I are going to discuss our perspectives, and then we're going to come out to the audience. We've got roaming mics, so we'll come out to you and get your perspective. We want to hear your stories, not just your position of it, but your stories, your highs, your lows, your I need this instantly booked moments. So please don't be shy, join in, and I think we kind of need that as well to keep everyone moving. These super comfortable chairs.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, question 1 of the day is, what does real-time booking actually mean in corporate accommodation?
But you know, when you think about going on a nice holiday, and then you wonder whether you're going to choose between a hotel or self-catering, or if you're traveling alone or with your partner, or if you're traveling with your family or with friends, what is it that you want? You want to make sure that you choose the best accommodation for you, that which for you is comfortable, that which for you will make you feel at ease, and especially that which can be booked like this. Because the world is fast-paced, fast-moving, and we want to make sure that everything is at our fingertips. Which one of you has not been using GPT, Perplexity, DeepSeek, whatever? I have. We all have. And we know that the future resembles technology being advanced in such a way that we'll be able even to speak to some of these machines and be able to tell them, book, and you will be done. So real time for me means if I need that, which I was just talking about it, I want to sit in front of a computer or talk to a machine and say, book it, and it is booked. Let it be light, and light is there. Does that make sense?
100%. from AltoVita's perspective, obviously you coming from that travel management space, right? From AltoVita's perspective, we are dealing with a wide variety of use cases, from global mobility, business travel, intern programs, projects, sometimes meeting and events as well. And so what we've learned is that real-time booking doesn't have a one-size-fits-all. No. It really doesn't. It's very, very specific to the unique needs of the program. So, you might have a business traveler that's going for 7 days next to HQ. And so for them, real-time means I want an instant apart hotel with flexible check-in options. But then you've got a family, right, moving to Singapore for 6 months. And for them, what they want is a curated shortlist of vetted accommodations, something that's checked on suitability, availability, compliance, before they can then go ahead and confirm within a couple of hours. And so that's, as well, when we get even into more complexities, when we're looking at the different asset classes. So then, in the accommodation space, and we're seeing that more broadly, accommodation always historically was hotels. Now we're looking at all various asset classes, and that's hotels, apart hotels, but also traditional service apartments, now professionalized private homes, apartments, villas, co-living spaces, and then as well, outside of that as well. And each of those has their own pricing model, their own availability logic, and their own operational constraints. So for us, instead of forcing like a one definition of real time, what we've then done is built AltoVerse. And then that proprietary technology is blending that automation with the human support where it's needed. And then that allows us to book, to tailor and to personalize that booking flow. Right, and that's, like I said, whether that's instant or whether that's going to be a more curated process. But obviously the objective, the goal being, like you said, instant. I want it now, I want support, or I want that booking now. So, this is the moment. This is the moment when we're going to come to you. Don't leave us hanging. It's getting the tone of the day started. So we'd love to hear from the audience then. What is your definition of real time? If not, I'll pick on someone. now I can see you.
Think about your needs. Think about the needs of your travelers. Think about you as a traveler. When you're traveling for leisure, when you're traveling for work, what does appeal to you more? Do I prefer to stay in a hotel? Do I want to stay in a hotel room for 2 weeks if I'm doing travel more? Or travel less, stay more kind of concept, which is becoming quite common.
We love Karen.
No.
No?
Yes.
Yes.
Because I'm going to talk a little bit about this later, but one of the things that I think is really important is definitely the real-time booking. To your point, people have different needs and requirement. One of the challenges with the global mobility world that we have is we're not always able to use the technology directly with individuals. So we're relying on emails being sent with options of accommodation. And then, people procrastinate. They're not quite sure on what area they're going to stay in for their temporary housing. They then come back a few days later to someone in my team and say, I want to book that apartment. It's gone. So for me, that is the real-time challenge that we have, is almost the minute we get that email, it's out of date, because property, as we know, disappears quite quickly. So I certainly will talk about the kind of how can AI help with that going forward, because I do think people do want to have that flexibility and that choice. And I think, just to your point, people want to have the ability to choose different types of properties, and I think we're still quite stuck in old tradition of standard temporary housing and not homes. One of the things at NBC Universal that we've been challenging for a while now, that AltoVita have been helping us with, is the ability to actually rent homes for 30 days for individuals, so that people feel more comfortable, rather than not so much now, but kind of more sterile temporary corporate housing. So they're the kind of things that I would say we need to really focus and consider.
There were two things that came to mind as you were going through that. First, on the corporate side is, are we setting priorities right? One as travel managers or buyers, and how are we setting these priorities and conveying them internally to our travelers? So are the travelers aware of the different types of accommodation? Do they set up their priorities right when they know that they need to go away for work, and what is it that is best for them? How is our culture internally? How are we educating them on the basis of what global accommodation means? Because to your point, there are not only corporations out there, corporate travel managers, travelers, different generations now mixed together traveling, thinking in terms of types of accommodation that is still, allow me to say, stuck in time. So when we think of corporate long-term accommodation, we're thinking of apartments, we're thinking of kind of boxed up spaces that still resemble hotel rooms. We have moved on from that a long time ago, and the hotels made sure that these happened. So we have the likes of Marriott and Hilton with different brands out there offering long-term accommodation with the still very well-known hotel kind of concept. But then there's the other side of our lovely hotel service apartment suppliers. What are you doing to challenge yourselves? What are the priorities that you are setting up? How you are collaborating among yourselves? How are you setting up your structure to standardize processes and then bring technology to support the different ways that you work with your clients and you work and collaborate with aggregators? What are your blockers? What is it that is preventing you from stepping out of your comfort zone or thinking outside the box and ensuring that AI, for example, is going to be a huge partner in bringing those connectivities together? And I think there is a tech conversation later on. I do not want to step in there.
Yeah, let's just steal their thunder and talk about it now. Let's come round to Damien, because I love you, one, but also, where's the mic? Being such a tech-driven space, global mobility as well, it's very contrasting to where Jose is coming from. So from your perspective, what are you trying to achieve with that real time?
I was just thinking, when I book a holiday, I use TUI, because on TUI you can select everything, you can choose everything there and then, and it's real time and it's live. And that's how I perceive we should be working towards that. But that's obviously more complicated from your perspective than I could imagine. But that's how I book my vacations.
Yeah.
So, and it's similar when booking accommodation, obviously. So I'm interested to see how we move towards that space and how we evolve.
In global mobility as well. Yeah. Super interesting. Does anyone else have any perspectives, any horror stories, any happy stories that they want to share? Or we're just all very comfortable in our, very comfy cinema chairs?
They are very comfortable, I have to say.
Okay, well let's talk about then the blockers, because you raised some of them, right?
Yeah.
So I've lost my card. So what are the current blockers, do you think, that are to achieving real-time booking?
So there are those of us who think that technology is the way, and we absolutely know technology is the way, but how does integration within technology help us to achieve that real-time ability to go to one place, for example, and book all that we need? So technology integration at the moment within the long-term accommodation sector is a bit of a problem, because we do. So I was attending the Business Travel Show the last couple of days.
We both were. This is
We
why
both
we're slightly tender voices.
So please don't mind my little rusty voice at the moment. So I made a case to visit some people I know in the apartment industry, and someone was talking to me about the fact that they are moving from being owners and working directly with corporate clients into bringing in a system and collaborating with others, and kind of venturing also into the world of aggregators. So I asked them, how are you doing that? And the answer was, alone. So why are you doing that alone? I mean, you own properties, it's great, it's fantastic, but why is it that you do not collaborate with others? We do, but at the same time, we want to check the market and, you know, take a little peek of it for ourselves. And the first time I got into the long-term accommodation discussions was in 2021. And I remember a lot of people saying similar things. And the first thing that came to my head was, why is it that there is no more collaboration?
It wasn't AltoVita, that wasn't the first
No.
thing? No. That was the second thing.
So why is it that there isn't much collaboration? So collaboration is still a blocker. There's not much collaboration. A lot of those in service apartment, in the service apartment sector, is thinking individually. However, this is changing. Don't take my word, you know, for granted. So technology, human interaction. So we were talking about technology and the way that we get technology to help us with real-time booking. But we can never forget that we need that human touch behind the scenes. There is operations out there. If there is a problem with one of our travelers or ourselves in an apartment or a house, who do we go to? And if there is a problem with technology, if there is a fault, if there is a major blackout, like it happened in Spain and Portugal not long ago, what do we do? So technology is the key, yes, but it's the key that opens a massive door. We need to think also in terms of nations, countries, legality, what is the word? Lease, vetting. We need to think in terms of what their priorities are, and I go back to that as well. In terms of contracting, how does a supplier who owns a property talks to you, AltoVita, or to any other aggregator, and convey their priorities, talk about contract, and then from you to the client, how does that reflect on the contract with the client? So there are so many different stages. So uniformity is something that lacks within the sector. Standardization is something that lacks within the sector. We could go on. Should they be blockers that kind of push us back and make us feel, oh, do you know what, I better just stick to someone and that's it? Obviously not. We all want to streamline processes. We want to make these processes easier. We want to feel comfortable dealing with our suppliers and making sure that they are not just suppliers, but partners. I'll leave it back to you.
Oh, I was letting you go. You're on a roll.
Sorry.
No, I love that.
This subject is very dear to my heart.
Yeah, we literally said we could talk about this just exclusively, like for the majority of the day, even, right? There's so much to cover. Yeah. So yeah, it can be very messy, right? You know, what we're looking at here represents the complexities of booking accommodation within the business travel space.
Can I just ask a question?
Yeah.
Does anyone here work with AltoVita or directly with a supplier? If I could just... When you were implementing, if you don't mind me asking, when you were implementing AltoVita, when you were procuring a service apartment, what was the major difficulty that you faced, or the biggest challenge to surpass, to say, well, now we're going to work with one aggregator, someone who will support us completely? I saw your hand. Yeah. Do you mind?
Joy? Oh, yeah.
Thank you, Joy.
You said the major challenge?
Yeah.
I mean, for us, we work, and Vivian and I looking at it. So we work directly with AltoVita, though we do have an intermediary in between, so we use our relocation management company.
Right.
However, the reason we wanted to kind of divert to one major supplier was primarily to have vetted accommodation. Yeah. Real-time availability, a good network, reliability, etc. And I think what we had in the past, we'd had a number of different providers that we'd partnered with, but not necessarily always reliable. And sometimes it was even the situation that you had, it was the same apartment provided by a number of different partners, but not always reliable either. So that was one of the primary reasons why we decided to go with AltoVita.
That's very good. I faced a similar situation myself when, in my past life, we implemented AltoVita at my last employer, let's put it that way. So it was a very similar situation. And I wonder whether if any of you, who implemented an apartment long-term accommodation supplier had those same challenges or had those same expectations to ensure that you have one place to go that will support you, that will look into all this for you, and you do not have to do it. Because to your point and to what I faced last year, fragmentation is another big blocker. And we face this not only in the apartment world, but there are other sectors out there which are not the subject today, but we face these in different sectors in the travel world. Yeah. How do we overcome fragmentation?
Exactly. I'm just going to go back to the one before. Oh. No? Not happy? Oh, we've gone all the way back. Here we go. Yeah, so exactly that. Talking about fragmentation, this is a huge challenge in the business travel space. We'll come to global mobility in one moment. But you can see here, you're relying on multiple players, layered approval chains, complex pricing models, so complex that then you need a normalization in the middle just to achieve the correct rate that you want, right? And so it's no surprise that then that can be so complex that they take the corporate accommodation, the alternative accommodation, and stick that offline. But then that completely defeats the purpose of having this all real time, right? Because it can be lengthy and whatnot. This infrastructure as well is reliant on some legacy systems like the GDS that's bloody been developed in the 1960s, and I don't think it's like much better, if I'm honest. So, and it was never designed to handle the complexities of extended stay. And then I just pulled this up just now. This is a very similar case as well with global mobility. This clunky infrastructure lacks scalability. It lacks transparency. It lacks personalization and agility. And so it's a very complex place to be. And then when you've got your organizations where you are bringing those functions, multiple functions together, it's like, oh my God, like where do we even start, right? So this is a good example. I'm going to leave this up as well. We can go through it, questions that we can go through as well, or we can also go through them again later if someone wants to talk to me on one-on-one about it. And then how can we use Altoverse to deliver that seamless booking to the various business segments? It offers that API connectivity. It's still got the blend of the human-led support as well with the automation and streamlining of processes. So, time is ticking quickly. So I want to come out again to see, I'm going to have to ask Damien again, if not, you're going to fall asleep. It's like everyone, I'm going to be honest, like I'm one of those that I fall asleep immediately in the cinema, like the movie credits on, and I'm like, so yeah, we're going to have to kind of like keep engaged with everyone today, because if not, they're going to nod off on us. Kerwin, what's your perspective on it? Obviously, you've been with AltoVita for some time now, and I'd love to hear from you. What's your thought? I can see you on the edge of your seat as well.
Less on direct booking, but really for me, I was in that room, client advisory board of our shared RMC, and I was lobbying the board, and your global head was there. And for me, as a buyer, mobility side, it was about cost transparency. It was about our prior providers via that same RMC had challenges passing our internal audit standards on cost and layers of cost from that other page that you have with aggregator to other aggregator, and all of those compounding costs on top of the RMC added on cost. So when we moved to AltoVita, a lot of the transparency actually came into light. And then the other item, from an instant booking perspective, for me, again, a lot of people would value that. But what we valued based on real cases, these were people we were evacuating from Ukraine. They don't have access to all of the instant stuff, but
Yeah.
you don't even know which border they would cross.
Yeah.
But then you had your customer support centers, and I go to Vivi and things happen. And they were supported. We
That's what we all
don't
go
know
to
the
Vivi
size
for.
of the family. Maybe when security was evacuating them, there were a family of 2 or 3. By the time they crossed the border, the biggest one became family of 12. And then along the way, real time, not via technology, but via AltoVita service, they were able to find them homes while driving across the border hours and hours, over 12 hours, to land to wherever they would land. But again, that's Poland, that's maybe crucial time. But AltoVita, for me, the instantness is not about the booking as well. Instantness for me happens in real life, where we had plans to evacuate, not evacuate, to close entities in Russia. And then the decision was made on a Wednesday. And then we had to immediately change plans and move families over to Kazakhstan, park them there. Our office is less than 50 headcount space. AltoVita was able to find homes for all the families we evacuated. We sent over to Kazakhstan, find them homes. And then above and beyond homes, instantness for me is homes that became pre-boarding, onboarding locations for us, because our office couldn't accommodate the number of families they moved over to Kazakhstan. So we were able to use homes that eventually was translated into, can we do payroll onboarding, can we do benefits onboarding in those homes? And when we had the business case to do that, then my argument with my travel providers, my procurement, isn't about cost to cost or cost transparency anymore. We were selling something above and beyond what we could do within our own facilities.
And
So it
that's
became
what I
easier.
love about our event. There's no other space that I'm aware of where you can get the perspective from the travel and the global mobility side, right? And so it's really interesting to to compare and contrast, right? What you're needing from end to end. So what do you think
And
then?
that
Yeah.
goes to show the value of ensuring that although we want real-time capability, we cannot forget that behind every technology there is a programmer, but ultimately there is someone managing the program. And there is someone who needs to be there, who knows what they're doing, who knows how to address humanness. Because instant bookability is not all about technology, and although we are ensuring that technology is taking over the world, right? Okay, in a way that it will make our lives easier, to give us the ability to think outside the box and to be able to integrate more, not only in terms of technology, but in terms of how we collaborate with one another. So in situations like that, where is technology? Well, it is there, but if we do not have the human element, then it will make really hard for us to implement technology, to integrate, to collaborate, especially on the basis of willingness. I was on a session at the Business Travel Show, and we were all talking about AI and how we are using AI. Right, okay, everyone is using AI to draft emails, to direct message, to create action plans, to do this, that, and the other. We are getting to a point where our critical sense is at question. So am I using AI to replace the things that I do based on my skills and capability, or I'm using AI to support and enhance those skills and capability? So I think it kind of goes more or less with what you were saying. We can use technology to support us, and it cannot be ever the other way around.
We're nearly there. So from our side, then obviously the question is the industry moving forward, right? And that's the broader question, rather than just specifically honing in on what is the definition of real time. You know, from our perspective, we are seeing that curiosity translate into commitment. They're not just clients aren't just asking what's real time. They want to explore what that means, and then they want to co-design how can they make that actualized, how can they make that happen right in their program. On the supplier side as well, of course, continuously onboarding suppliers that have got that API connectivity, that real-time data management, standardizing of that data, and that's recognizing the need for speed. Just drop that one in there. So just in last couple of minutes, what do you think? What's your key takeaway? Do you think where are we going with this?
I think we are walking in the direction of making real-time bookings in every aspect possible. We can see that. There is no turning back from where we are now, unless there is a global catastrophe and everything goes. And to your point about TUI, if we are able to do that in a smaller scale, what is it that is preventing us from doing in a larger scale and from touching every single aspect of what business travel and travel incorporates? 1960s was when GDSs were launched. GDS today does everything that we can think of, even support us with booking long-term accommodation. I'm sure you can think of a supplier that is in the GDS. And if that is the case, why is it that we cannot come up with a global solution or with an integrated solution that will help us with real-time booking? That's my take.
Well, we've got the whole day to discuss as well.
Yes.
So nothing left then for me to thank
Thank
Jose for his very honest insights. Thank everyone who participated. I hope you enjoyed, and we look forward to enjoying the rest of the day with the summit. I think Joy just dropped something that she needs. There we go.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.